17,000 Kroger workers with UFCW Local 455 were once again on the precipice of a strike for the third or fourth time during the pandemic.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Last Week in Southern Labor is a segment that we do every week where we go over what happened last week in the South in the labor movement. We get this information from Jonah Furman's newsletter, Who Gets the Bird? You can read it at whogetsthebird.substack.com, where he goes over what happened everywhere, all over the United States in the labor movement. We just take out the important parts, which is what happened in the South, right? Screw the Yankees. I don't care about them. Of course, that's a joke. I love my Yankee brothers and sisters. Blah, 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 blah. In new organizing, we had new union filings are up 57% year over year per the NLRB. Something approaching 10% of those are from Starbucks alone, which is awesome. Speaking of Starbucks, 479 Starbucks workers at 17 stores filed for elections with Workers United, including in Denton, Texas, and Boone, North Carolina. 62 staffers at good government nonprofit Common Cause in D.C. are unionizing with the Washington-Baltimore News Guild. 60 commercial building cleaners for Hamhead in D.C. are organizing with Laborers Local 572. 3 flight simulator techs for CAE in Midland City, Alabama, are joining the Machinists. 3 sprinkler fitters for Amtech in Lexington, Kentucky, are joining UA Local 669. SPFPA continues to unionize canine handlers, with 40 more joining in D.C. this week. 15 security guards at an air traffic control center in Fort Worth, Texas, are joining Federal Contract Guards of America, and 8 security guards at an office building in D.C. are joining SPFPA. In election wins and losses, we had 156 workers for Refresco in Fort Worth, Texas, remain with the Teamsters Local 997 after beating a decertification vote 84-49. In strikes and bargaining, Justin Miller at the Texas Observer has finally written the deep dive piece that the 10-month Exxon lockout of 600 steelworkers in Beaumont, Texas deserves. Check it out. Several big grocery strikes did not happen last week, with a major deal announced in East Texas, where 17,000 Kroger workers with UFCW Local 455 were once again on the precipice of a strike for the third or fourth time during the pandemic. 300 nurses and hospital workers with the D.C. Nurses Association held a one-day strike against Howard University Hospital in D.C. The Parcast Union, which is a part of the Writers Guild of America East, has been in negotiations with Spotify for a year and a half and is frustrated over pay, diversity, and intellectual property provisions, saying they are ready to strike. Vice ran a piece about the BNSF rail carrier's egregious high-vis attendance policy that has been driving longtime railroaders with BMWE, that's a union, and Smart TD, another union, out of the industry, and which courts have more or less said the unions can't strike over without massive state reprisal. Imagine that in this country. But the free speech war is about whether or not you can post on Twitter. Meanwhile, the government is telling railroad workers that they can't strike because their bosses aren't letting them off more than one day a month. Screw you. I mean, God, screw you. Screw you if you think the free speech fight in America is on Twitter. Sorry, it's so frustrating. Senate cafeteria workers with Unite Here Local 23 in D.C. rallied last week. In political fights, NLRB General Counsel Jennifer Abruzo is at it again, dropping some extremely consequential memos. First, that captive audience meetings where an employer forces workers to listen to propaganda against the union or corners workers on a job to convince them to vote no are against the law. Second, that it's time to reinstate the Joy Silk Doctrine. We'll be doing a deep dive in overtime on that, by which a union is only not recognized when there is some good faith reason to doubt that it has majority support among workers, not just when the boss would like to drag the union into a weeks or months-long campaign. The second memo actually contains several important recommendations, though it's not totally clear when these things might go into effect. They have to be taken up by the board itself for them to go into effect. So we'll see. Also, the NLRB has finally ruled on the Memphis 7, which is 7 Starbucks workers fired for organizing at a Memphis location, which provoked national protests, but what felt like a sluggish response from the board in a campaign that's moving at a speed unheard of for the 21st century NLRB. The board says the firings were illegal, but the question remains if the board is willing to stop the tactic from spreading, as it has throughout the company, with activists fired in Buffalo, North Carolina, Arizona, and elsewhere. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.